Good morning, well, friends, and thank you for joining us on the Wellness Social Worker podcast, Untangled. I am your wellness social worker, Rolanda Brown Dennis, and my co host is.
Greetings, everyone. I am Honey Rome, the agent of change.
And today we have our special guest, Mr. Tavares Sherrod.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us. So super excited about this conversation today because I know we gonna bring it to the table.
We'll get into some things, huh?
We
Get
gonna
into
talk
some
about some
things.
things.
Oh,
So I will allow you the floor to introduce yourself.
okay. Uh, Hello, everyone. I am Tavares Sherrod. I am a licensed massage therapist, esthetician. I am also a registered clinical mental health intern, and I'm currently in the massage and bodywork field right now. Definitely continuing to do the clinical mental health piece and exploring that and seeing where that's taking me and where it will take me. I'm just excited to be here and excited to be a part of the Wellness Podcast. Just glad to be here.
Yay! So tell us about who Tavares is, your background, your inspirations, all of that great stuff.
Oh man, who Tavares is? Wow. Tavares is a very chill dude, like for the most part, very level-headed, level-minded. But that's not without his own struggles. And growing up, born and raised in Tampa, from the projects, and experiencing life as a black man in a black family and all of those tropes that come with that. Growing up in, for some reason, having experiences with a mom that was kind of in and out of the background in the picture, a dad that wasn't there until later on in life. So struggling to understand, why, who am I in that child mode, and all families didn't realize until I came to college that my family was a little bit dysfunctional, and like having that understanding and just growing up, and I've always been a helper.
Hmm.
I'm the eldest of four, and always been in that kind of, I don't know, parental mode. I think it was one of those things growing up that it's kind of pushed upon us to take on that responsibility. And part of my journey of kind of leaving my house with my mom at 13 and going to stay with my aunt for a little bit. And it's just the interesting part about family, and that family, no questions had to be asked about why I left my home. It just one of those things. My aunt just took on that motherly role and took care of me until my grandmother took myself and my siblings to Alabama for it was just one of those things. That's what's so powerful with black families, and understanding that family is everything when family can be there and to kind of support you in those pivotal moments. But eventually, I graduated high school and was not about to stay in Alabama after high school. Went right on back to Florida. I got accepted into USF, and something kept happening with my transcript. I knew about FAMU. My family would always go to homecoming and all that good stuff. And so at the last minute, because I didn't want to be left behind, I was like, I told my uncle. I remember talking to my uncle about it. Shout out to Uncle Lorenzo. He's a fellow Rattler, and I have some cousins as well. But I was like, look, I need to get into school. I don't know what I'm going to do. I need to apply.
Yeah.
So he went to pulling some strings and talking to who he needed to talk to. Next thing you know, I'm at FAMU. So, and that's the power of FAMU, going to HBCU as well. Like it's family, and I'm not just a number. So I've learned so much about myself and my sense of determination to achieve my goals and dreams, and
Yeah.
understanding where life will lead me. And of course, graduated from FAM and got my undergrad degree in social work, and went on to get my master's in clinical mental health Thank you. Shout out to Boys Town. Appreciate that.
Mhm.
Didn't have to pay for that. I definitely, you know. And so here I am now, and I got into the world of massage therapy back in 2017, 2018. I was in
Mm,
South Florida, and I was always interested in massage therapy. I was good at it, but didn't have any formal training.
yeah.
So one day I was like, let me look at a school. Looked at a school, Cortiva Institute, went into my first class, and we did our first clinical experience, and I was like, oh,
Mhm.
this is it. And this is like a whole new world just kind of exploded, and I loved it and continue to
Yeah.
love it. So that's a bit about me in a short.
Okay. So why social work? Why did you
uh,
choose social work?
Social work, but like I said before, I've always been a helper, and like I've always wanted to, and I found it interesting to study human behavior. And I
Mm,
always wanted to know why people did what they did. And I think it's because of my upbringing and because like that lack of like I didn't have the typical mother and father figures. Although I did have my uncles, I had my grandmother, I had my aunts, I had all these people that stepped in, but I still, as a child, I wanted to understand why is it that way?
right,
Why people make these decisions and they leave their children to kind of deal with the aftermath. So
right.
when I got to FAM and looking at majors, at first I started out thought I was going to do teaching. I thought I was going to teach, and when I found out the all the ropes you had to go through as a teacher, I was like, oh, I ain't doing all that. And then I wanted to put up with my kids, so I was like, nah, I ain't doing that. So I got into social work. And when I got there, I was like, oh, this is it. This is what I wanted to do. So, yeah.
So from your perspective, educational background and all your specialties, as a Black man,
Hmm.
how do you what is your view on like mental health for holding space for African American men?
Wow. That mental health in African American men is so important because for most of our lives, we've grown up believing from our own family and from the society as a whole as it views black men like we're supposed to be strong, we're supposed to be protectors, we're grow up, we're not supposed to cry.
Mm,
Boys don't cry, men don't cry. Black men, don't you let them see you cry. Don't give them
mm,
that. Da da da. So you have this built-in mentality like I'm supposed to be strong. I can handle these things. I can do this. And when you're growing up and you're dealing with so much trauma every day, you see
mm.
shootings, you see, you being ostracized for who you are as a black man, walking down the street, being stopped by the police. You constantly go through traumas. All we constantly go through traumas all throughout our lives, and we dealing with family issues, family struggles, and that whole thing. You pile on. There's some all that has to go somewhere. All of that
Yeah.
impacts us, and we stuff it down. We stuff the emotional pieces. That's why so many black men, I feel like, are disconnected from self. So many black men dissociate and not even realize that they go through life dissociating and have been on autopilot all their lives because they're not in tune. One, they're not in tune with their bodies. They don't know what it is to feel and to really understand. I can feel my emotions and regulate appropriately. Most black men don't know how to
Yeah.
self-regulate. And instead of feeling their feelings and sitting with that and like, okay, I'm feeling this, but why? What is going on? And really being able to intelligently pinpoint that, they find maladaptive ways to address it. Drinking, sex, risky
Mm,
behavior, just involving themselves with like-minded individuals that are not going to help them push them forward. So it's really really tough, but yet it's needed. And
yeah.
it's a need for more black men to be in the mental health profession and to really to deal with it because we understand it. No therapist is
Yeah.
without flaw. No therapist doesn't have a therapist has a therapist. So
Mhm.
Right.
that's also
Right.
important. So no therapist is important. That's what I want people to understand. A therapist has a therapist or needs a therapist
Yeah.
because they're taking in so much stuff. And it's just for black men, it's not easy. And it's not easy. And you have to be able to some to some degree relate, be relatable. You may not have the same experiences, but there is something in that context of just you and I being two black men being able to discuss and talk about the trauma you've experienced, to be able to make that relatable
Mhm.
and being able to feel comfortable to be able to deal with it. How does that make you
Yeah.
feel? I might be the first person to ask you, how did that make you feel when your mother
Yeah.
did this
Yeah.
or your father did this? Nobody's probably asked that man how he felt. Unless
Yeah.
his folks and his friends like, "You got this, man. It's gonna be all right." But that's
Mhm.
effed up. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Mhm.
My
Yeah.
body is shutting down. My mind is shutting down. I can't trust people. I dang sure feel like I can't go out. And how am I gonna be able to show up in a relationship healthily? How am I gonna be involved in a
Yeah.
relationship if I'm not showing up for myself? If I don't know who I
Yeah.
am. And so now I'm giving a partner all of my negative experiences. I'm engaging negatively and I'm creating more of a chaotic environment with the person that I'm supposed to be
Yeah.
connecting with and feel safe with. Most black men don't feel safe. And that's the basic.
Mm.
So as a black man who knows the experiences of a black man in America and how hard and rough they already portray you to be, what
Mhm.
was the experience like for you to choose professions and licenses where you are required to be gentle and soft and really look at the emotional state of yourself and others? What was it like to have to remove yourself from the perception of who you are and finding who you actually are and helping other black men do the same thing?
Wow, that's a good question. Um,
That's a real good question.
mm, when I came to school, I was always that person that understood that, I had feelings and emotions and whatnot. But again, you have the outside of who you are outside of school, outside of work, and in your everyday life and your engagement with people and friends and family. Sometimes what I've learned is that I had to disconnect and pull back. And then what I had to sit down and realize is are these relationships that I'm having, are they beneficial? Are they going to help me get to where I need to be? Are they promoting? Am I engaging with people that are helping me for my highest good, for the betterment of
Mm.
myself? Like, am I going to do that? Yes, it's a struggle to kind of um, to get out of that, I guess, people pleasing in a sense, because you want to
Mhm.
feel like your peers at the time that you want to feel connected to community. And if this is the community, the only community that's going to be your comfort zone.
Hmm.
That's the biggest thing. I had to
Yeah.
learn how to get out of my comfort zone with people, places, and things. With especially within our community, when we are drawn to one specific community. And when we step out into something else, it feels unnerving. It's uncomfortable. And when we talk about social work and mental health profession, as a black man going into that, that can be unsettling because you start thinking
Mm.
about all your own experiences and you're trying to help someone else. Yes, you can relate. You're like, dang, yeah, that makes sense. But when you're in social work classes, all you start thinking about is how all of this stuff is pinpointed at you and how these experiences, like, dang, I didn't realize my family was so dysfunctional. I didn't realize that I wasn't showing up the way I probably should be showing up in the community or with my interactions with people. Like, I really had to sit down and have that strength to keep moving forward and separate myself from the general consensus of the community that I was engaged with or involved with. But most of the time
Mm.
in my life, I was great at picking friends. Like, I knew what friends that I didn't really want or didn't really care for. And I chose others, people that can relate to me. So that's one thing I pride myself on. I've been a good judge of character in terms of picking friends and keeping my circle small. But all the friends that I've come across, they all had the same mindset of school, trying to do something with themselves, and not getting lost in the sauce, as we say in the military.
Yeah.
But I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, it did. Well, to me, I didn't ask the question, but I felt like it did. I don't know.
I felt
Well, I was like, yeah, it did.
I'm like, am I going
Not
down the
answering
wrong
for her. Tavares,
I
tilt your
think it was a
camera a little bit. Tilt your camera. Yeah, there you go. Now you're all the way in it. Okay, there we
Oh,
go.
my bad.
Yeah, perfect. No, you're good. You're good. That was um that was deep because like how like you experience things and then sometimes you feel like you're the only one that's experiencing it.
Yep.
And
Mhm.
I've often like looked around like the classroom, when I was in my studies, and I only see like one, African American man to like all of these, women.
Mhm.
I've always wondered why? Like why did they choose? And then also like do they understand how much power they have?
Right.
Like,
Right.
they always say naturally women are nurturers and blah blah blah, all that other great stuff. And so social work is a woman's profession and all of this. But for me, I've always been like, and I guess working in the field also, you can see the impact that a man, especially a black man, can have on families, right? Because when we are out and we're uh, communicating and we're working with our families, it's not just moms. There are fathers there as well, even
Yep.
if they're not in the same household. But then you also have youth that are males along. So the representation really, really like matters. Did you ever like while you have been as you matriculated through your education and then, even current day, did you ever like fully grasp the understanding of how much power you had as a black man in your community?
It not initially. I can absolutely say that I did not realize or recognize the power that I hold as a
Mm.
black man until I really started working. When I started working with um, Boys Town. Initially, I was an in-home family consultant, so I went into the homes. I was teaching parenting skills, life skills, connecting families to resources. And when I would go into the homes, and they would predominantly be African American homes, and looking at the dynamics and working with them and being able to kind of relate in the language that they speak. I think
Mm.
that's the biggest thing with engaging with our community. Be able to teach
Mhm.
them in the manner to what they understand and
Mhm.
be able to relate to the language that they speak. And I
Mhm.
realized quickly that coming into a home as a professional black man with no intentions other than to help and assist that family and to really to be there as a support, and you realize that you quickly become a role model. The kids start coming up to
Mm.
you, hey, Mr. Tavares, how you doing? Da, da, da. Or the parents like, oh, Mr. Tavares, I done messed up. I did it. Like, oh, that's all right. Let's do this. And you get that engagement, and then people really know, and especially in our community, because we don't trust nobody. They don't care who
At
you are.
all.
And coming into the
Mhm.
coming into the
At
home,
all.
and that's why it's so important to build that relationship and build that rapport so that you know, like, hey, look, I'm really trying to help you. And there will be some that just don't want the help, or just has that wall up, and because of their own traumas, and they can't see
Yeah.
past their own traumas to fully engage. And then there are others that will fully engage and understand and grow and learn and not come back into the system aspect because they've taken the knowledge or taken the things that you taught them. And I think that I actually came in, I represent a Black man, of what the idea of a Black man kind of should be for that brief moment of working with them. I show them an alternative of what that representation could look like if their children were able to kind of grow and develop, if you nurture them, because men can be nurturing as well. It's just it's a balance of that piece. You're gonna nurture your son, you're gonna nurture your daughter. It's just gonna look kind of different. And it's gonna, you gotta be there, and that's just being present and being there in the moment with those families. And yeah, I as I began to work with families and began to build that, I start realizing the influence, the power of influence that I had with those families. And as I matriculated on through my career, I realized that the more you are engulfing understanding diverse groups and diverse populations, and understanding culture, and understanding what your role is within all of that, the bigger your influence can grow, because you understand, you can relate. You may not understand sometimes, but you can find common ground and how to work and maneuver within that. And then they look at you. I've worked with white families that, like, you turn the narrative. They're like, oh, okay, well, I didn't think that you would. I didn't think that you knew this. Or I didn't think that. Da, da, da. I'm like, what do you? Okay, I'm here for a reason. So, but in some things across cultures, you're able to flip the narrative or what that is. Or, so I didn't realize it till I really started getting in there and working in the community and working with families. And I had a better understanding of the dynamics. And as you work in this field, you start being able to pinpoint trauma. You start to pinpoint the trauma.
Yeah.
Oh, you're doing this because X, Y, and Z. You're behaving in this way because this happened. Your daughter is doing this because you are representing what this dysfunction of relational pieces are looking like. So you start to plot the points within the family, and you start pulling together, like, okay, this is why we're doing this. So we need to focus on this and build that relationship. So that's what I started to notice, putting the web of the different traumas. And when you look at the family, now I can automatically kind of see, yeah, this. Okay, now I'm going to start here, because this is going to help cancel out this issue. And it's almost like a domino effect. You get to the source. If you can get to the source of that issue, especially with our people, then you can really kind of help them, give them some relief in that. So
That's like gold. That's pure. That's pure magic. 'Cause, my what I always tell my students, when they are working, out in the field and things like that, I have to remind them that you can't just like look at the client on the surface. You have to go deeper. Even though we are macro clinicians, is what I call us, even though we're macro clinicians, we can't just put a band-aid on it by just providing, those services, because it's going to be a revolving door of the same, needs. We have got to identify, or learn how to identify, the root causes of, how the need for the service even became, a thing. And just like you said, when you start talking to your clients, you can automatically start sensing, like, okay, this is the identified trauma, because that's literally where it comes from. It comes from trauma, right?
Yep.
And I remind them, like, yes, you're working with adults, like, a lot, and the decision making, and even when it comes to, like, providing services for their kids, but you have to remember that unhealed children grow into unhealed adults. And then we see that repetitive cycle. And if at some point we can get them to jump off that hamster wheel and just go left, and
Yeah.
have that conversation in our community language. You know, it can't be like that whole sterile type of,
Mm-hmm.
you got to be authentic with it and
You
really
have
have
to.
that, yeah, that one-on-one conversation. Like, listen, this is what I'm noticing. Like, how are you feeling about blah, 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 blah. And if you listen long enough to what they're saying, they are saying it and don't even realize that they're,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
like you said earlier, a lot of times they've never had, not just men but just community in general, they've never had anyone to say like, how are you feeling, or how are you doing, or what's going on. It feels like that isolated incident type of
Yeah.
thing, you
And
know.
when you see in so many different communities where you work with mothers or even some in some cases fathers, to where yeah, that you really have I call them come to Jesus conversation with them,
Hmm.
really sit down and have this conversation. And so many of them will express, so many moms, single
Mm-hmm.
black moms will express like, I'm doing all this for my kids. I'm doing what I can for my kids. But what about me? What
Yeah.
about me? I'm tired. What
Yeah.
about me? And that's that inner child trauma. And
Yeah.
nobody's taking the time to really explore what that looks like for this mom or for that dad. Like, damn, I'm doing everything I can,
Yeah.
but nobody's coming to me and asking me if I need help. What about me? And that's that inner child. And so that in turn contributes to the neglect of the child. Like they throw their hands up, like, put them out, do whatever. I can't do nothing with you. But
Yeah.
that goes back to your own trauma and your own experiences, because
Yeah.
you don't know how to one, you struggle with self-regulation. Two, you don't know what to do because you've never been shown a way to do it appropriately, or do it to do it to in a way that's not going to negatively impact your children.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we don't like to go to therapy. Back in the day, that I ain't crazy.
And you don't tell all your business and all of that. But you said something that, again, that I tell my students as well. Like, when we talk about mental health, the language is so different. You know,
Yeah.
Mhm.
we can't we can't expect for people to just be like, oh, I need a mental health day, I'm having a mental health crisis, or what have you. It typically looks like, I'm tired, I've had,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I whatever, it is what it is. Like, those are
Right.
the key words where it's like, okay, there's some mental health imbalance,
Mm-hmm.
hmm
right here,
hmm
because we don't say, I'm thinking about committing suicide, or I'm thinking about, like, there may
yeah,
be situations where that individual may say that, but I feel like in community, it's other words that like replace those,
yeah,
the common words that we or others may think would be like the natural progression of like, okay, this is why this, happened. But knowing what that dialogue looks like
hmm
really helps us to like, tap in, like really pay
Mm-hmm.
attention to like what your client is saying to you, or what your family members are saying. Like, I had my students read the Unapologetic Guide to Black Mental Health. I had them read that
mm,
summer, and it gave just a deep dive, a different perspective of what mental health looks like in the
yep,
African American community.
Right.
yep,
And just those key things of like, do whatever, that take
yep,
them, you
yep,
know, and the
yep.
automatic assumption is that, oh, they don't care about their kids. They
Mm-mm.
don't love their kids anymore. They don't want them. They want to go do hood rat stuff with their homies, or whatever, and it's like,
Or
Mm-hmm.
yep,
no,
or
they're,
translation into I'm just gonna work. I'm gonna work. I'm
yeah,
gonna work. What they do, whatever. I'm just gonna. My escape is work.
yeah,
Yeah.
Avoidance. I'm gonna work, or I'm gonna go out of town. Do whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
That's just those things.
coping mechanism.
I think one of the most, I'm going to say one of, not the most, but one of the most powerful things about being a social worker, especially like a Black or brown social worker, is that we can recognize how
Mhm.
often we put on those masks. Like we know what it looks like to be lying to ourselves and
Yeah.
making it
Yes.
seem like we're just okay because we feel
Yep.
like we have the whole world on our shoulders and we have this person to take care of and that person to take care of, especially if you're a single mom or a single dad or you're the oldest child or the middle child. There's so much tied to just your identity when you're Black or brown that has nothing to do with who you actually identify as, that
Hmm.
there's so much that you're holding in. So I think being able to see someone that looks like us sitting across from us and they're just like, okay, keep it real.
Let me keep it a
Like,
buck.
let's be real with each
Let's
other.
get to
What is it that you're feeling? Because if you're looking at someone who doesn't understand what your experiences are and what your struggles actually look like, when they ask you what's wrong and you say, "Oh, I'm just tired," they're just like, "Okay, well, maybe like let's work on like some extra me time or some self-care." But we know when someone looks at us and they're just like, "I'm tired," it's deeper than that. It's bone
yes,
deep. Like it's a
yes,
spiritual like fatigue that you're
yes.
feeling. It's
Well,
not just like I need a nap. I need
you.
love and
Hmm.
care and rest,
Hmm.
and I need an
Yeah.
apology. I need accountability. Like there's so much to just being tired. It's has nothing to do with actually needing to lay down in bed.
And that
Right.
you said two very important things, honey. You said spiritually and emotionally tapped out.
Yeah.
Hmm.
That's huge when you see a person that's spiritually and emotionally tapped out. It's the look is on their face, it's in
Hmm.
their bodies. And you said another thing about accountability too. Black people sometimes try to escape accountability when it comes, especially when it comes to their mental health. They try to escape that accountability and they try to maneuver and slick slide and go this way. But as a therapist and as a Black therapist, I'm going to bring it to your front porch because you got to
Hmm.
deal with it.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it to you, and you might get mad at me. You might
Yeah.
get uncomfortable with what I pick up and what I pull up out of you, but you'll thank
Hmm.
me later down the line because if I don't address this now, you won't get the relief that you're seeking and that you so desperately want. Secondly, because I am a licensed massage therapist, I look for signs in the body. And we often talk about with EMDR therapy, looking for the somatic symptoms of
Hmm.
what that looks like. And for Black folks, Black and brown, or just people in general, the typical signs of intense stress, anxiety, sense of hopelessness, the body is intense. You oftentimes you see clients that when they're struggling, they're tired, they're, what we call in Reiki throat chakra, and being able to express themselves. They get the lumping in the throat. So that tells me sometimes that there was some restriction in their voice, and they didn't necessarily have a voice growing up, so they become a lot meeker. They struggle with expressing themselves, and they have all this internal stuff that they push down, push down, push down, or are afraid to express who they are. Or if they have the tightness in the shoulders, the neck area, it's usually where they're holding that stress and anxiety. I always complain of back issues or my shoulder pains or all of these things, and I have to go to work tomorrow. I got this headache, this migraine. So what I incorporate and I learned to incorporate is how to deal with those somatic pieces. And EMDR was a huge, eye opener in that sense of understanding and incorporating the somatic pieces of that. But with massage therapy, actually being able to pinpoint that, deal with it, but also incorporate the mental aspects of that. So movement and body, along with mental health, are crucial because you want to address those somatics and you want to address the mental piece as well.
Mm. That, yeah. That
Processing.
really got me over here like,
No, but that makes so much sense. Like it's people don't really realize how much your body will tell you
Hmm.
what's wrong and what's going on. Because even something as simple as like I think I learned that a lot of your emotions are stored in your hips. And it's just
Hmm.
like something as simple as that. Like I've noticed like when I'm emotionally constipated, my hips start killing me. And I'm looking, I'm like,
Oh,
I feel so old, but I can't be old. Like I'm just in college. I'm laying in bed. I can't even lay on one side for too long because it's starting to ache. And I'm like, what am I not doing? What am I not saying? What am I not releasing?
listen, I recently, and it's you. I'm so on point, honey. When you mentioned that about the hips and the body, I recently attended a workshop. Shout out to Alicia Pickard.
Mm,
She does trauma release exercises, but by it was created by David Berceli. I even bought the little book from her, and I'll send
Oh,
you. I'll let you look at a copy of it. Later. But
okay.
what this talks about is how that trauma is stored and anxiety and PTSD and how its impact on the psoas muscle, which is the muscle within the right there in your pelvic area and near the hip, if you can see that. Um,
mm,
Yeah.
so when you look at that and you kind of do these exercises, well, it takes you through a number of exercises, but the bigger picture is once you get into like this butterfly, almost like this butterfly pose with your legs,
mm,
and after you've completed the exercise beforehand, and as you and then what I do, imagine like a big medicine ball that I'm trying to close, and as you close your legs, the body, after like a workout, if you max out arms, legs, something, your leg they shake. So those
mhm,
Mhm.
tremors are helping to release that tension that's stored in the body. So the hip
Oh.
area, the body, and that sometimes as you practice this method, the more you practice it, the more that release gets in. You'll notice the release in other parts of the body, but mainly that's why it's so funny that Honey would mention that, but that release in the hip area. And what I've tried it and I've been practicing it lately, and I notice as I'm doing that because I sometimes would have struggles with my sciatica or that my right hip. So as I do that, it helps release that in that psoas muscle, and I feel great after that. So that's why I say that to say, like, it's very important to combine the somatics and body movement and all those things with the mental health aspects and being from that holistic mindset and understanding it's not just the mind, it's the body, and it's the spiritual components with that, and understanding like through Reiki and healing and all these alternative pieces that they can help. And it's not many of us, as you know, in that dynamic of holistic care with combining mental health along with that. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, the challenges that are faced with holism
Hmm.
and trying
Hmm.
to trying to explain it um to clients or potential clients or just the community as a whole without it's like I feel like as soon as they hear holistic, it's like, whoop, shut that down.
mhm.
Nope,
Yep.
not trying to
Yep.
not trying to hear
Not trying to not
But
trying to
I
go there.
yeah, right. But and I've noticed that, I've told, individuals, well, you pray about it, because I don't want you to do or think that you're doing anything that goes against, your religion or belief or,
Mhm.
what have you.
Mhm.
But those that have, said, I like your approach, and then learning about, me and who I
Mhm.
am, and have said, okay, I'm gonna give it a try, and they give it a try, and it's like, why didn't I why didn't I
Try
take
this
this approach
sooner.
before?
Yeah,
It's
because
like, it's okay, you're here now, it's fine.
right.
Once
So, but what we're
once we
doing
as
is,
a community, oh, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
oh no, you're fine. I was just gonna say, like, what we're doing is teaching people how to be present in their bodies and how to
Yeah,
Mhm.
connect with their bodies. That is
yeah,
it. If you're disconnected from your body, it's you feel all the pains, all the groans, all the moans because you're not present. It goes back to that dissociation and
mhm,
not being present in what you're doing or in the moment.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry, honey, go ahead.
You're good. I was just gonna say, referring to when Professor Brown Dennis was saying that when our people, when the minority community, when we hear about holism, we think that there's like this, like you're disrespecting or devaluing like your belief system or spirituality. And I just wanted to like basically make note that I think there's a lot of healing that will come when we realize how embedded spirituality is in
Mhm.
mental health and how those two things can work together. Your mental wellness should not negate your necessity for your belief system because that's what it's founded on. So I think once
Right.
we like as Black practitioners start talking more or having conversations like this when we're just like your belief in God is your strength. We're never going to say that it's not. However, there's strength within you as a person as well that you can combine with that so that you have all these tools to your like disposal. There's
Oh
never, I
yeah.
don't think like we came so far to where it's just like spirituality is something that we hold dear to us because we know this is a safety for us, that we don't realize that there are other opportunities for safety that we can access and combine with what we already have. We are still in this mindset where it's just like we're gonna take what we can get or what we already have because we worked it to our needs. Where we really need to make it well known with our people that we aren't in the state where it's just like we're only accepting what we're being given because that's all that we can
Mhm.
have. We can go out there
Mhm.
and get those things if we want more. We don't have to
Right.
wait for permission anymore. And I think it's
Exactly.
that an independence in all realms of life that somewhat scares us because we're not used to being able to have everything that we wanted without having to ask the next person or someone who we perceive to be above us. Like
Right.
there's like we don't have to have or engage with the hierarchy anymore because we are already above what they even expected of us and what we expected of ourselves. So why can't we, get more?
Just tap into it. Why can't we
Yeah.
explore that and see what it looks like? And with clients, I have you utilize calming techniques or grounding techniques that incorporate the use of God and God's light and bringing that light around you and having them to connect with what that feels like, what that immense
Right.
joy of having that spiritual connection to help you get within your body. Like that does not, like you said, it does not negate your beliefs. Let me incorporate that. Let me incorporate God
Mhm.
into that, and let me bring you to it, and let you take a deeper connection and understanding with God and your mental health. Because
Yeah.
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
connect in that way, like that's a beautiful way. You connect with God, and you get this guided imagery of what that feels like to be in God's light and be feel protected by God or whatever spiritual belief that you might have. Let's
Mhm.
incorporate that. Let's build that up because we want to get you connected with the higher sense of a power of source, or we want to get you connected with that so that you can be present in your body and help alleviate some of the mental games that the brain can play because the brain already knows
Right.
what it needs to do to heal. You just got to connect with it and connect with your body.
Yeah. And it's amazing how, I've had people tell me that they're actually able to like see like their journey, like, God on the path. They're able to
Hmm.
connect with him on an even
Mhm.
deeper level. They're able to hear him and see the signs and things like that that they weren't able to receive before. And it's like when you're blocked,
Hmm.
when those chakras are blocked, when all of that is, you're not and he's sitting back like, okay, any minute now. Get
I'm talking to
it.
you. I'm talking
I'm
because
talking to you. You keep
at,
asking me.
at that point, but see, at that point, they've been able to stop and listen.
Mhm.
Right.
Listen to hear and
Right.
to understand because your guidance is there. He's screaming
Yeah.
it to you every day, and
Yeah.
he's giving your body the indicators to let you know that something needs to change. He's giving you
Yeah.
the inclination and intuition to better understand, like, all right, something's not working here, something's off. trust in it. And I think in that journey and through therapy, what clients learn and what I have learned as a therapist and as being a client, I'm learning more to trust myself, to trust my guidance, to trust what I get. If I don't feel, if something tells me that something ain't right, then something isn't right. And now I have to
Mhm.
sit with that and get that understanding of what is it that isn't right? What am I feeling? Why am I feeling this way? Okay, let me go get some help with this if I can't problem solve it on my own.
Right.
Yeah. And to
Right.
think about the fact that all of that starts with just sitting down and staying
Hmm.
still, and how that's such a taboo topic in Black
Hmm.
and Brown communities. You sit down for too long, don't you have something to do?
Yeah.
What you just sitting here being lazy for? Like you sleeping
Yeah.
in. What is that? Like it's such like we're not used to just being able to say, I'm resting. Like I know my dad
Yeah.
get tired of calling me, asking me what I'm doing. I'm laying on the couch
Right.
watching TV.
Right.
I'm
But
I'm resting for the both of us because
but you
you
know what
still
that
at work.
is?
I'm not doing
You know what that is? That's the
it.
constant flux of Black people being in survival mode or crisis mode.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And
Survive,
that goes from
not thrive.
childhood. That goes from
Yeah.
childhood. I grew up like
Yeah.
that.
Hmm.
Constant
Yeah.
Yeah.
flux of survival mode, having to do it yourself, having to go and having to take the reins because you don't trust other people to have your best interests at heart. Growing up like that,
Hmm.
it makes you, people see you as independent. They see you as having it all together. They see you as doing all these things, but what they don't know is that you just don't trust.
Right. Is that
You know?
hypervigilance? You ain't gonna get very far if you don't have
Yeah.
people to be able to carry you. You can't carry yourself.
Yeah, and I had to unlearn all of those. I had to unlearn those things, and still working to unlearn that, and learning to be able to
Yeah.
trust and build my community to where that I can express myself and I can allow them to help me carry the load if it gets too heavy.
Yeah. But I think it also it ties back into the experiences of our ancestors, during their
Hmm.
time. They had to do that. And
Yep.
so
Hmm.
with what they had, it was passed on, to
Mhm.
teach, their children, their children taught us, and, all of that. And us being in a space now where we don't, in certain capacities, you may still have to kind of like, tailor it,
Mhm.
but it's not full force. It does not have to be like that, fully. Like, I mean, I know as Honey, stated, the resting, I know I still struggle with that busy
Mhm.
mentality, and I have to
Mhm.
remind myself, like, okay, I'm dismantling the idea that I have to be the strong Black woman, that I
Mhm.
have to be busy all the time, that I have to be booked and busy all the time. Because when I'm operating in that space, I'm surviving and not thriving. And then I'm not able to process the lessons that I need to receive from that. And then I'm not able to pour into others in my community
Mhm.
authentically, right? I'm
Hmm.
transferring, that energy. And if I'm out here, telling people like, hey, I have your best interest at hand. I want to assist you on your healing journey. But then I'm over here doing blah, 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 blah. 9 times out of 10, they're gonna mimic, what I'm
Absolutely.
what I'm doing. And then we are breaking our bodies down. We are a spirit inside of a body. The body
Mhm.
is the vessel. We only get one. Let's take care of it. Like, we
Mhm.
don't run our cars all day long. Our car we turn off that ignition and it
Hmm.
sits,
That's it.
you know?
Yep.
Right. And so
Right.
it's like, why is it okay for us to do that with our vehicles? Like to knowingly say, hey, 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 don't leave my car running. It'll overheat or it'll blah, 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 blah. Or make sure you put the right grade of gas or let me go get my car washed because it looks blah, blah, blah. We do all this car care, but we don't
Mhm.
do the self care, for ourselves. Like just let's start looking at our bodies as vehicles, and maybe we can start implementing some of that. And then like you said, unlearning and relearning. I think that of course we have the advantage because we've gone through our programs and, our
Mhm.
trainings and things like that and got our degrees. And it goes back to, what Honey was saying, as practitioners, it's our responsibility to go into community and provide this knowledge and this guidance and allow people to know, like, it's okay and this is a safe space, for them
Yep.
to
Mhm.
be in.
Yep. It's okay for them not to be okay and to
Yeah.
seek
Yeah.
that help and that assistance,
Yeah.
especially coming from someone that looks like them.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
what would you tell aspiring Black male clinicians? Say that they're just starting their journey, they have an interest in social work or, you know, any other helping profession. What would be your guidance to them?
Hmm. My guidance is to be willing to search beyond yourself. Be willing to um, have an open mind and get a deep, be willing to have a deeper understanding of yourself so that you can understand your own makeup, your own family background, how those impacts or how those experiences have contributed to your strengths and how you can relate to certain things and be willing to be hold that space. Always understand that you must hold space whenever you're dealing with any client, but more specifically when you're dealing with our own people or Black and brown people, be willing to hold space for what their experiences have been.
So what would your guidance be for Black men in regards to seeking healing within the mental health capacity?
Um, my guidance for Black men would be to, in in order to understand yourself, you really have to reflect upon your own experiences,
Mm,
whether it's through family, whether it's through friends. Reflect upon your own experiences and have they been, and you decide, has this been a healthy experience for me? Have I been able to thrive based on my family experience or friends with my experiences with my friends or anybody within my scope? Um, what have I learned from my current experiences? If what I've learned has taught me anything healthy, or am I continue to learn maladaptive ways of being and really realizing it's okay to sit with your feelings and you are entitled to the way you feel. Not Don't let anybody discount how you feel, no matter how you feel. Don't let anyone discount that and know that your feelings are valid. It's okay.
so
That's my main advice.
my last question. What would you say
Hmm.
to the women, the mothers, the grandmothers, the daughters, the sisters, the aunts? What would be your advice to them in supporting the Black men in
Mm.
their family when it comes to mental health?
The
Or
biggest
as not
thing.
even just period.
First, I would like to say just with Black women in that realm, because I think Black women are more readily to address their own traumas.
Hmm.
But when they are raising Black men, and they're only doing what they know to do, but my advice to them is to please don't discount their feelings. Don't brush off what your child is feeling. This is a young black boy. Don't invalidate him if he's saying or trying to express or communicate what's going on with him. Don't discount that. Nurture that. Help him understand that it's okay to be who he is and not have to struggle with that mindset of I have to be someone, I have to be this, I can't cry, I can't show this emotion, I have to be a protector at this point. When he's growing up, I have to be a kid. I shouldn't be worried about
Yeah.
being a protector or provider with that. Yes, you install
Yeah.
that by being the role model or teaching that this is, what a gentleman would do. You teach your child like, okay, this is what a man would do if he's interacting with people or teaching manners or whatever. But if he comes to you with feelings, anger, sadness, or those things, don't discount him. Don't dismiss him. Hear him, understand
Yeah.
them, validate those feelings, and be able to kind of nurture that. Not to say that you're not and go with don't go with the belief that you're raising a soft child or you're raising a male who's going to be able to appropriately emotionally regulate. He's going to be able to regulate his emotions and understand his emotions and know how to, yes, on top of being logical about things, be able to remove his emotions out of certain situations. So you teach him early on how to recognize when I'm sad and why I'm sad, reasons for it. If he can recognize those things early on, then he can better regulate his emotions as an adult. He doesn't have to
Yeah.
unexplain and be upset, and then it contributes to lashing out, acting out, or what most women might say is childish, because you only know you're only doing what you've learned. This is how you get your needs
Yeah.
met. So if I'm teaching you another way to get your needs met, yes, I'm upset. I'm angry. Why are you upset? Because I couldn't get this fixed or this toy fixed. Okay, I understand that. So let's look at it. But be able to do that and recognize where the anger or where the sadness is coming from early on so that you can address it and teach them. And as they go through life, you don't have to go to the school because they couldn't control themselves when things happen.
Mm.
So I hope that helps.
Yeah.
I hope that makes sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense because, when you said allowing them to be kids, they shouldn't have to, um, I'm going to use the word, parentified. They shouldn't have to feel
Mhm.
parentified. Like, I believe that we have all at some point heard the reference of, if, okay, well, you the man of the house now,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Mhm.
And it automatically thrust them into this role that,
Mhm.
they shouldn't have to be in. It's
They didn't have the
supposed to make them feel,
capacity.
oh, huh?
Yeah. They didn't have the capacity for that role at 9 or 10 years old.
Yeah.
Right,
I don't know what the man of the
right,
house is.
right. So it's like,
Mhm.
okay, out of town or granddaddy's going out of town, you the man of the house now, make sure everything is in order. And it's like, how when they're little?
How?
Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, did you wipe when you came out the bathroom, but now you want him to be, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Yeah.
can we do baby steps right now? Like, just the roles um that our youth are put in. And I'm not, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, but I feel like um it becomes a bigger challenge when they hit like those preteen teen years, when hormones are like all over the
Mhm.
place and they're really trying to, gather like that understanding. I do have, a belief that in those times, moms, as mothers, as women, we can like make or break
Yeah.
our young, black men, and that plays a huge role in, where they're going, as adults, as men, you
Mhm.
know what I'm saying? And so being consciously, you know, aware of that. And if we're not sure, like finding that positive, you know, role model, organizations, you know,
Absolutely.
things
Yeah.
like that. So I've always, you know, I've always wondered, like from a Black man's perspective, like how can we as women be of support? And because I know I got a mouth on me. I'm,
Well,
Mhm.
we're not gonna give into that stereotype.
you know, I mean, you know, I love the Black men in my family, and I appreciate them. I,
And that comes
I really do, and I know I have to check myself at the front door at times, like,
Yeah.
girl, you know,
let me chill.
girl.
Let me chill out.
Then let me chill. Let me not even. I'm not gonna send that text. Let me, you
Mhm.
know,
Just say okay.
let's all go on the journey of identifying our toxic traits and dismantle them.
Right.
Okay, you know,
Just say okay. That's all.
let's
And that
let's,
that
let's
that
do that.
Yeah.
you
Let's
see
do
that
that.
Just let it
growth.
go.
You know,
Just you gotta.
Yeah, you see that growth when you just respond. Okay. That
right,
unnerves the person when you just say okay.
right.
They didn't hit you with a whole
Yeah,
All
paragraph.
right.
that's fine. But okay, okay.
That's growth.
Well, sir, this has been an absolutely wonderful conversation. I
Yeah.
feel like we can go on for hours and
I know.
hours with this because I mean, there's just so much that needs to be unpacked. There's so much that needs to be, you know, said. And I know that there, you know, there are advocates out there for mental health and Black men and mental health and holding, you know, that space.
Mhm.
And I just appreciate you for being willing to share your testimony and, you know, your journey and then how you're pouring back into community, not just community as a whole, but community when working with African American men and youth, and being that face of representation that like, hey, it's okay, you know, there's
Mhm.
absolutely nothing wrong with that. And so if anyone is interested in working with you, finding you, how can they go about doing that?
Oh wow. Right now, I mean, my IG is Tavar Sherrod on Instagram, and Facebook. Um, I am right now. You can reach me at Chelsea Spa and Salon. I'm doing massage therapy there. As far as the
Okay.
clinical mental health aspect, I will be jumping back into that soon. I don't know what that's going to look like right now, but who knows? As soon as I have it, I'll let you know. You'll be the first to know.
All right. Sounds good to me. Well, we thank you for joining us today. And that will close our episode of this Testimony Tuesday, the Wellness
Hello.
Social Worker Untangled.
Hallelujah.
All right.